Hello everyone, welcome back to iRead'em. As usual, we have another episode of ProRevenge today. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, please leave a comment down below. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe and click the bell icon for more videos. This will also really help my channel out. Thanks. Don't think I'm worth the money? Kiss your income goodbye. Is this pro? I think so. I probably could have gotten a little more involved, but the end result put a smile on my face. Sorry it's long, but I wanted to tell as much of the story as I can. TLDR, guy said no one was worth $10 an hour and generally blamed a lot of stuff on me, so I left and they contacted the city about issues. Apartments end up shut down so a lot of income goes away. So I was living in a town where there was an old hotel that was in the process of being converted to apartments. Ended up moving in and at some point started to help the owner, let's call him Steve, out with a lot of stuff. Started with little odd jobs here and there, helping tear a wall out, take debris out, no big deal really, made a few extra bucks. Being a geek, it didn't take long to start ending up helping handle some other stuff, so they had internet access available, but it was using HPNA, so basically in-home DSL overlines in a 50-year-old building. They're slowly adding more people here, and so adding more capacity ended up being my job, as well as handling the installs and troubleshooting. Building had its own cable system as well, and it had issues with some stuff overheating. Came up with a design that would simplify the build out somewhat and remove the issue of overheating boxes, as well as adding more room for channels to be added and creating a type of scrolling TV guide channel using Titan.tv and an auto scroll plugin in the browser, then piping it onto a channel and adding some music. Before long, I was handling most of the maintenance for all the apartments, internet, cable, lockouts, and whatever else might be needed. Then Steve's stepdaughter moved in and things started to happen that were fishy, my information being removed as a lockout number among other things. So I gracefully moved on and got out of the way, as I didn't want to be in the middle of family. I also had no hard feelings for Steve over what the daughter or her husband were doing. I still got calls with questions and would answer them here and there. About 6 months after moving out, I got a call that Steve needed help as the boiler system was acting up and basically the building did not have heat. I went down and helped things tore apart since the daughter's husband couldn't be bothered. He moved out of a house because he didn't want to take care of things, even though the wife did most of it. Ended up fins on the boiler had clogged up with soot during startups over a few years. We cleaned it all out and got it up and running. Disaster averted. Owner had another project he wanted some help with, so rather than turn down some extra cash, I figured why not. We ran a small water line from the top of multiple plumbing shafts to the basement, so that a set of valves could be put into place so the recirculation pump would be able to evenly get water through the lines and everyone would have instant hot water. Ended up moving back to the area a couple months later as I started helping Steve with an even larger building nearby. The old hotel, converted to apartments, was 10 stories tall, so not small, but didn't need a lot done most of the time. The new place was not as tall, but was larger and more spread out. One section had 3 floors, and the whole thing sat on something nearly the size of a city block. I think the total square footage was around 50,000 inside. I was taking care of the apartment maintenance needs and a few other things again, as well as staying in the building with my wife, who was acting as a lookout in the evenings. During the day I would help out with whatever was going on. We literally reworked a lot of structural steel, reclad one section of the building with corrugated steel sheets, extended one section of the building and poured concrete floors and retaining walls. I started having issues here and there with getting overheated during the day, heat stroke, and while I was living there, I had not actually moved yet, so it ended up taking a week to put most of our things in storage. We were literally living at the building in an RV. I had to keep the building secure. When I got back, Steve started complaining that the power for the building was $100 and blamed it on me running an air conditioner. We'd been running a 220 weld on average 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, but it had to be the AC unit, and basically said that there was no way I could keep an eye on things if it was running because I couldn't hear anything. It had been over a month straight with highs over 100 degrees, but with another roof over my RV, it never got direct heat, so I called BS as my 2-bedroom apartment I just vacated only had electric costs around $120 per month. And it was all electric. There's a lot more items using power, including my aquarium. A question was then made about what I thought I was worth. I figured about $10 an hour. I dealt with a lot, including maintenance and all the machinery and his vehicles, and never charged for fuel or mileage when I would drive my own vehicle to do things. For as long as I worked for the guy, I always had to bid my jobs outside of maintenance work. I was only receiving a flat amount of money each month for the work in the building, and my wife received nothing for keeping an eye out, which he did pretty well of since I actually caught a teenage kid in the other building with her seeing them. Steve stated that no one was worth $10 per hour to him. Other things were being thrown out as my fault too. Basically, Steve was under the gun on a couple of things, as when he bought the building, it was actually scheduled to be torn down, and another building across the road, which was also to be scheduled to be torn down, was bought slightly after he purchased his, yet it had already been completely rehabilitated, and to get it up to code, the roof was completely gone, and the inside was so full of trash it took nearly a month to clean it out. Steve kept changing things after something was done, and then turning around and changing them was wasting more and more time. A lot of things were going on as well, so I opted to be done and move on again, this time with no option of going back. My wife's health started going downhill anyway, so being blamed for petty rubbish wasn't worth it, and I obviously wasn't wanted around anymore. Now here's a revenge. I told him multiple times there was an issue with the fire alarm panel not charging the batteries. The local fire department had been on him once and forced more smoke detectors to be installed as a retrofit, and a few other things. The smoke detectors were installed, but the battery changing issue was never fixed properly. Other things in the building had also started to fall into disrepair that I had told him needed to be dealt with. For instance, there were some very large windows were cracked and a few had pieces broken with tenants in them. It was a 2-man job to fix the windows, and Steve had too many irons in the fire. He had sunk over $500,000 into the new building, and either couldn't afford to have someone else to do the work, or he didn't think it was worthwhile, so he kept putting it off. I went ahead and contacted the city about issues that needed to be addressed, as well as dropped some complaints about things. I used multiple email addresses from accounts I set up for exactly that purpose, so it would never track back to me, and contacted multiple members of the city council as well as the fire chief and marshal. I never contacted Steve again, but the last time I was there, the apartment building was shut down with signs stating that it could no longer be occupied. Since the fire alarm panel had been written up once before due to issues, and he had never been told that if it became a problem again, a sprinkler system would be required to bring the building up to code, with it acting up again the fire marshal shut it all down. The new building is now off the demolition list, but is once again sits empty, as there is likely not enough money left to pull from the apartment building to make it complete. You see, being off the list only required to be a warehouse grade, which is basic lighting, emergency lighting, mostly airtight with egress and fire systems. Once that was done, more work would be needed to actually start using the structure for office space and things of that nature. Going from 100 apartments to 23 with a few rent houses that needed work likely took the last little bit of money he had free to do things. The apartment building was truly unsafe, as if the power went out, the fire alarm panel would not function, and with a tall building on fire, a lowly floor would lead to pure disaster. All he had to do was fix it so the batteries were charged and would stay that way, and pay someone to work on the panel if it was acting up. But then again, no one was worth $10 an hour, so why would he pay someone who was going to make up even more than that? I felt bad for most of the people who lived there, since they lost their home, but I would have felt worse if they were hurt or worse in a fire. The only thing I wish I had seen was the stepdaughter and husband's face while they had to move, they're on the top floor, as well as Steve's and wife's face when the building was basically condemned. But I still go back and look at the news article showing it was all shut down and have a little smile. It just doesn't pay to be a jerk when someone has tried you out, when someone has tried to help you out. Well, okay, so that was quite a long story. Paying someone $10 an hour isn't really, well, it's not much at all. It's nowhere near what people should be paid for this kind of work. So, and the fact he was putting people at risk too, which is pretty awful. And yeah, for the amount of flats, well, apartments, there was a fire, and yeah, it would have been pretty awful. So it's good that this person got their revenge, because it was a massive safety risk. Thank you everyone for watching to the end of today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, then please like, comment, subscribe and click the bell icon for more videos. Thanks. I also have lots of other ProRevenge videos on my channel, some of which should be on the screen right now, so please consider checking them out. Thanks and bye.